Hello everyone and welcome to Digital Agency Summit 2017. We have with us Danny Gonzalez. So Danny founded his agency Perception in 2001 and has built it into an extremely successful agency focusing on UI and UX for feature films and global tech companies. He's even consulted on Iron Man 2 to conceptualize Tony Stark's digital brand in the movie. How cool is that, right? So in this session, Danny will share more about how to attract the best talents for your growing agency by creating an inviting culture. So Danny, could you share a bit more with us about how you got started in the agency world and a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so when I graduated college, I actually I got a job right out of college, thanks to my girlfriend, who's now my wife at the time, but at a company called RGA, and they are one of the biggest digital agencies today. But back then, in the late 90s, it was more or less a visual effects studio. Did a lot of motion graphics, a lot of branding, worked with film companies, advertising agencies, networks, and things like that. So in 2000, late 2000, they decided they're going to go completely .com and build websites when the .com craze was going, crazy throughout the world. And my partner and I, Jeremy Lasky, my partner, he and I met at RGA. We worked there together for about 4 or 5 years. We decided to leave RGA and start our own company. And then that's when, in 2001, we started Perception.
Awesome. So I understand that you are very passionate about talking about attracting best talents, and creating the culture for the agency. And so I'll let you get to your slides now to share a bit more about the agency and how you do that for Perception.
Sure. So my name is Danny Gonzalez. I'm the co-founder of Perception, and the topic I want to talk to you about is crafting a dynamic culture and attracting top talent for your agency. So when we started Perception, my business partner and I in 2001, it was really just a culture of two. But it was the beginning of Perception, and we realized that our passion and our philosophies were the foundation of what the culture of the company was going to be. So, it was very important to us when we started the company to, we had a lot of different goals. So we had goals for top clients that we wanted to reach out to and work with. We had goals to make sure that our clients were always happy, and that we always did great work for them, and that they would return and do more work with us. And we realized that it was always important to keep setting these goals and to just lay down a solid foundation, because eventually we knew that we'd probably need to hire more people if we wanted to grow the business, and those people had to have similar philosophies and goals in order for the company to move forward. So how do you foster the right culture? And some people think it's like this big mystery, but the best way to do it for us at Perception was we built a handbook. And my partner and I spent a lot of time at the library in a very quiet place, just really focusing on what we needed the handbook to say. So I'm going to show a couple of screenshots of our handbook, and then I'll talk to you more about the importance of laying a foundation to build a handbook and move forward from there. So this is one of the pages from our handbook. This is the history page, and you'll see in the little pictures on the bottom left there, that's actually Jeremy and myself painting the first Perception, we'll call it. The office or the studio was very small. That picture makes it look actually a lot larger than it was, but we did everything ourselves. And then, so that was from the beginning for about 1.5 years, and then 1.5 years to about 9 years we spent in our second space. That was a little bit bigger, and then currently we're at a space here in Midtown Manhattan that's rather large, and we can bring in a lot more folks when we need help and things like that. So another thing that we wanted to put in the handbook were the core values. And we have a lot of different ones. There's core values in communication, there's core values about hard work, about creativity, about teamwork, and about client services. After all, we're in a client service business. I grew up in the restaurant business, so my father owned a restaurant, and I started working there when I was 14, and it was always about making the client happy. So that was very important to me to lay out in the handbook. And then one of the things that a lot of handbooks we did research on, they always said what they did, and we wanted to put in a lot of what we did not do. And I'll go over a couple of these, some of my highlights that I like, that I wanted to share with you guys. So new team members that join Perception always need to understand the company's history. And I think this is very important for any company, whether you're bringing in staff employees or even freelancers or vendors. And I'll get into a little bit of that later on. Basically, anybody you're teaming up with should know who founded the company, because sometimes the founders aren't there. Why the company was founded. We started the company in 2001, and we left this company, RGA, that we worked for 5 years, and started Perception with the idea that everything could be done on a desktop. Final Cut was just coming out. After Effects was getting a lot more powerful, and we worked at this high-end visual effects studio that basically had these machines that cost $500,000. And we started the company with 2 Macs and 2 guys. So it's important to know, to share this information with potential employees. What's the company mission? That changes every once in a while. For us back then is we wanted to be the best motion graphics studio on the planet. And today, we're essentially the best UI designers for futuristic UIs that all the Marvel superheroes use in film. And on the other side of Perception, we do UI and UX for technology companies around the globe. So we'll work with companies like Microsoft, IBM, Samsung. We work with a ton of automobile companies, and they see us as the experts in the field of UI and UX. And then most importantly, where the company is going forward. When you get a new employee and they want to hear a little bit, if they don't ask a question where the company is going, you definitely need to tell them, because sometimes, we did a transition. We made that step towards technology, and a lot of our designers weren't really into it. So they went their separate ways, and we continued our path towards what we wanted to do as a company. So going back to some of the pages that I shared with you, the screenshots from our handbook, here are some of the principles that we like to share with everybody, or that everybody here shares. We are creative problem solvers. Everybody here is a thinker, from the production team to the technology team to the creative team. Everybody looks at the problem differently. For production, it's resourcing. For technology, obviously, it's whatever hardware or software we're using. And then for the creative, it's how is this problem going to be solved through design. We create groundbreaking work with meaning. Our work must evolve and innovate. For us, if we're not innovating, we're going to die quickly. As a team, we must always be open to change. This is something that I find very funny. It's a story that I tell a lot to young designers and especially employees coming in, is that, if we went by a lot of the advice of our employees, we would never have done our first film. So at the time, our creative director, who's still he's actually our principal creative director today, but back then he was creative director, and he told us, we never really did a film. How are we going to do this? And we said, we're going to figure it out. We're going to work on it. We're going to do great. And we did that. And that was actually in 2009, Iron Man 2. And that made the shift, and what opened myself and my partner's eyes to the technology world. Because after that call, since we designed the complete digital universe of Tony Stark, technology companies were calling us from across the globe. And that's when we started working with the Samsungs and the Microsofts of the world, and getting to speak at Apple and different places like that. So we also share a lot of the same core values. And again, this is a couple of snippets from the screenshots I shared of our handbook. So communication, everybody here listens very carefully and they respond intelligently. We don't want anybody to kind of just listen half and just start asking the wrong questions. Everybody here communicates face to face, which is you'd think is common sense, but with, you know, texting and instant messaging and things like that, even though people sit like right across from each other, they're still, you know, IMing each other. And for us, it's all about getting up and talking to people. Work ethic. For us, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. We've had a lot of talented people come into this studio, and sometimes they don't fit the culture, and we just don't ask them to come back. But a lot of the culture here, and I tell clients all the time, is that I have the strongest team on the planet. We might not be the most talented, but we're going to give you the best work, and no one can outwork the team that I have. You know, we work, you know, in the film world, we're here sometimes 24/7 for long stretches of time, and the clients appreciate that, and our work shows it. And, you know, we definitely take our work as far as the creative side. You know, we don't just make pretty frames to, you know, make a cool hologram or, you know, make the technology look like it's gonna, you know, create an experience that's, we know is not gonna work because the technology of today isn't really there. And our development team is, you know, guiding us through that. So we'll create designs or experiences that we know are gonna make a difference. And sometimes, you know, you don't have to create something different. You just have to create something good. And good is just great. Always stay hungry. Everybody here always wants to keep working on the next project. You know, we're always asking everybody here, you know, what's a dream project for you? You know, how do we get into, you know, working with more automobile companies, things like that. So we love to get everybody involved in that regard. Creativity. The process is more important than the outcome. I mentioned a little bit about that as far as, you know, coming up with the right design solutions for the creative problem. Again, pretty pictures don't always create the solution. And do not fear the unknown. That's when we grow. You know, when we build projects that we're not sure at the beginning 100% how it's gonna, you know, come together at the end. That's when we actually grow and learn and realize, like, wow, you know, we made this happen, and we thought it was going to be, you know, a nightmare to work on, but in the end, it was, it came out great. So some other core values: teamwork. We will earn each other's trust and respect. We live and die as a team. Client service. We exceed client expectations, whether it's an existing or a new client. You know, a lot of the times the team gets excited when we get a new project because it's a brand new, you know, working with a different brand or, you know, a different film. But, you know, Marvel wouldn't be coming back to us year in and year out if we didn't do great work for them. So we do the same high level of work for existing clients as we do for new clients. And we will make the client's brand our own. We really get deep into what the client's brand is about. You know, sometimes we'll be too busy and we'll get calls from clients that want us to work with them, and we'll have to turn them down because, you know, we don't just take on projects because we want to take them on. We want to take on the projects that we know we can get deep into with the time frame that's allowed, and if our schedule can accommodate it, because that's when we're going to do great work. And I think, you know, clients appreciate that. You know, we'd rather say no than say yes and do a bad job. And here's some of my favorites. So what we don't do, we don't show up late. I personally have a pet peeve for people who show up late when we're in a meeting and, you know, everybody's there gathered. You know, there's no one person that's more important than the rest of the team. So I don't like when people show up late. We don't bullshit each other. Excuse my New York City language, but that's fact here at Perception. We don't lie. We don't get comfortable. You know, we have a saying that be comfortable being uncomfortable, because when we get projects that are just comfortable and we churn them out quickly, that's not really when we're going to grow. We don't pass blame. If we do something wrong, we take accountability for it. We don't say it can't be done, because we've seen in the past from other projects that we've taken on that it can be done. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about taking new employees through the company protocols, and that's also part of our handbook. And this is important because a lot of people, join the team. Sometimes they're so excited to join the team here because we do great work, or we work on fun projects, and they're not always all fun. Grass is always greener, of course, when you're looking from the outside in. But they just come on in and they want to get right to work, and we need to explain to them, there's certain protocols. So obviously paid time off is very important. Vacation, sick time, holiday time off, the hours of operation. Everybody here gets a key and an alarm code. And, we have certain times of operation when, phone's ringing, 9 to 5, 9 to 6. But everybody here can stay actually until they want to and come in on weekends, things like that. And again, there's proper protocols that they have to follow with a weekend sign-in sheet, things like that. But we go through that with everybody. Security protocols. So our projects, both on the film side and on the technology side, are very secure, as you can imagine. So, working on films, obviously those clips and ideas and concept art, cannot get leaked. And on the technology side, it's even greater because it's technology that hasn't seen or that the public hasn't seen yet. And technology companies take their platforms and all their software very seriously, and they do not want it to get leaked. And of course, insurance and other benefits like 401k, things like that. Very important for people to know. So moving forward, we also like to take people through the company process. We'll walk them through exactly who's involved with projects and at what point. So the way the company is structured, there's a new business team, there's a production team, there's a creative team, there's a technology team. So how does a project come in, or how does it start, and then how does it finish? And I'll take you a little bit through that through one of the diagrams later on. What are the general expectations of the client? Well, of course they expect great work, but depending on the project, we have to line expectations from our team as well as our client's team to make sure that we're, doing everything that they want us to do for their project. How long do projects usually last? That's a lot of the questions that new people ask when they join the team. That varies. It could be a 1 to 2 year project. We've built the actual UI and UX for a tablet that went to market, and that was a 2-year process. And sometimes it's a discovery phase for a new product that we're doing that might be only a month or two. And what is the project life cycle? And this is an old diagram that I dug up that is updated in our new handbook, but I thought this one was a little bit more fun to talk about because this was when Jeremy and I realized, probably about 5 years into Perception, that we really need to lay down a structure or a cycle of how a project lives, and we wanted to do it in a creative way because a lot of the people that work here are creatives, right? So we wanted to do it in an Illustrator form. So from the top, there's new business. There's obviously there's hunting that goes on. A project arises or a bid and pitch comes in. So we have to create the budget and we have to resource whatever designer is going to be on the team. Then we come up with brainstorms, and this follows a lot of this follows today's process for us. We edit them down, then we present them to the client. Sometimes we have to write scripts for certain projects when we're doing a lot of use cases for our technology projects. A lot of that has to do with writing down what certain use cases are. So to us, it's pretty much a script. From there, it's a client presentation, and we'll win the project, and then we'll have a kickoff. So then it really shoots over to the production team. Then we have design phases. From there, it'll go into a little bit of in the design, there's a discovery. From there, we'll refine those designs, and they'll become more style frames. We'll do motion tests, even, and we'll call them motion studies. Even when, it's a technology project, we still do these motion studies because we need to show technology, whether it's our internal team or sometimes the technology is so secret that the engineers on our client side will just tell us, show us in animation form what you guys are thinking, and then we'll replicate it within technology. So we'll do that a lot as well because of the proprietary nature of their software. And then, of course, there's, first round, second round, third rounds, things like that. And then there's a production phase where we'll continue to refine our designs. We'll continue to do our UX strategy, and then we'll continue to crank out either prototypes with our own internal technology team, or again, these motion studies to send to their engineering team on the outside. And then there's, of course, revisions, things like that, and testing and all the fun stuff that goes along with it towards the end of the project. And there's delivery. And then this is where it gets fun. So if the client's happy, the client returns, you'll see the arrow goes all the way back to project arises. But if the client's not happy, there's a co-founder fury where Jeremy and myself get very angry. And then there's possible termination. Now, of course, it's not just a one-time thing where one thing happens and someone gets terminated. But if it's a strong enough situation, they usually there'll be some sort of termination or some sort of speaking to, and sometimes we'll tell them to basically, that's why it says lobby. You're exiting through the lobby. So again, this is a kind of a fun way to look at how a project cycle at Perception works, and I thought it would be great to share it with everybody. So from there, again, now running a company, it's harder for myself and Jeremy to find the right talent and meet with them and start bringing in more employees. So now there's, we have managers and leaders to continue the culture at Perception. So each section of the company, has its own subculture, but of course it follows the Perception Handbook and the Perception culture. So you have production, and they're more about getting things done. You have the creative and the UX, and they're all about the visual appeal and the usability of what they're designing. And then we have the technology and the development team that brings everything to life. And of course, there's crosses in between. You have technology talking to creative and helping them bring it to life. And then there's production, of course, talking with technology, and they're getting things done. So there's that constant flow of communication between all the teams. But I thought this was an interesting way to look at it. And of course, the golden rules of Perception are passion beyond fear, and that nothing is impossible. And that's why having the right team in place and having the right managers and leaders help the rest of the team get things done, and showing our clients that nothing is really impossible. So attracting talent. So let's talk about that now. The golden rules for us when it comes to attracting talent. And again, this goes back to in the beginning when I said that, it's important to have a handbook. We have a modified handbook that we use for freelancers and outside partners that need to understand the culture and the connection when they work with Perception. They need to know what they're signing up for. We don't want a partner to sign up with us or a freelancer coming in that all of a sudden they see that we're crazy, we're working long hours, or the way we attack certain design problems, things like that. So we like to take everybody through a mock project, so to speak, if we can't talk about the one that they're actually going to be working on yet. And for me, one of the best golden rules that we have in attracting talent is having a strong internal team. That is key for Perception. That to me, when you have a strong internal team of creatives and problem solvers and developers and project managers, they attract other great people as well. They travel in packs. So we're lucky that we have a great internal team. They're very strong at what they do. They're experts, and they attract a lot of outsiders to come and work here. Of course, having great projects to work on is attractive for everybody. But again, the grass is always greener, so everybody thinks, you guys work on all the great films and you work on great technology projects. There is a high level of stress when it comes to those projects. And that's, again, something that these people need to understand what they're signing up for, again, whether they're freelancers or whether they're a potential employee joining the team. It's something that they need to know. Something that we all try to do, at least at the management level is meeting talent before they start at the studio. Again, this gives us an opportunity to talk to them about, you know, the culture, going through some of the handbook with them, talking about the project life cycle, how it works, you know, who's working on it at what points, things like that. And of course, we have to go over security because at our studio it is at a high level, so we go over security quite a bit with anybody that's coming in to work at Perception. Having a social presence attracts talent. You know, we're pretty lively on Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff. We like to share a lot of our work, or at least what we're, you know, testing and working on at Perception. A lot of what we do as well is, you know, we'll do field trips every time we work on a film. So the last one we got to work on was Doctor Strange. So we took the whole company to see Doctor Strange. So you'll see a lot of the team pictures or whoever can make it that day because there's not, you know, work going on. We get to all check out the film in its full glory as we watch it as a team. So that's a lot of fun. Jeremy and I speak a lot, as well as our creative director, but we speak a lot at conferences. We go a lot to schools, so we'll go to, you know, Carnegie Mellon, Otis, SCAD, things like that, and we do critiques and things like that. So that's definitely a great way to attract young talent. And this is a big one, you know, referring talent if it's not the right fit for us. You know, sometimes we'll get kids out of school that, you know, send us reels and it's more of a, you know, character animation. They think because we're doing films that we might eventually one day do, you know, a Toy Story or something like that. We do not. We concentrate heavily on futuristic technology within the films. So, you know, I have a lot of friends in the business that have other companies that work on, you know, that sort of thing. And I'll refer, you know, this talent to those companies and tell and reach out to the owners that are, again, you know, colleagues saying, hey, this person's got a great reel. You should check them out. You know, if you use them, cool. If not, then maybe they can come in freelance, things like that. And that is a big plus because then, you know, they remember that. And if I ever need help, I reach out to everybody and say, hey, I'm looking for a great designer. You know, when I send out a blast of 100 emails, I'll get 100 responses because I have helped people in the past. And we try to do that with everybody here. And another big one, and this is more with freelancers and outside partners, you know, it's being respectful of everyone's time. You know, making sure that, you know, we get them what they need in time so then they could get us back what we need, or with freelancers, you know, internally, if they have to run out to do something, whatever it is, you know, everybody, as long as everybody's getting the work done, it's pretty, you know, open as far as, you know, the schedule and things that are going on. Again, making sure that everybody gets things done in time is a number one rule, but being respectful of everyone's time. And this goes back to also, you know, if you're putting people on hold and the project falls through, or if the client's, you know, delaying it a little bit, letting them know like, hey, it's been delayed. You know, if we can push it a week, that'd be great. But if you can't, you know, if you're a freelancer and you have to take another job somewhere else, we understand, but we're giving you a heads up because we don't know if this project might start at the actual start time that we discussed with that person. So, you know, that again is key to try and manage all the times of outside forces. And, you know, one of the funny things, you know, building Perception from pretty much, you know, again, 2 people in a small room to we're about 15 people now and growing, is everyone always says they don't like structure until they don't have any. You know, everybody wants to be, you know, free flowing and doing everything, you know, on the fly, things like that. But imagine a project being done with no structure. I mean, it'd be like a wild, wild west. Everybody here, Perception, running around like, oh, what are you doing? I'm working on this. Let me go run over here. Let me do this. Let me do that. So, you know, having that small sandbox of rules and you know, not necessarily cracking the whip, but having that structure in place is something that everybody here appreciates. And they realized, you know, whether they were freelancers, went somewhere else and came back and told us that they need that sort of structure, or that, you know, just employees that we've hired from other companies, you know, they've seen the handbook and like, wow, I never got a handbook before, and I've been at 5 different companies. This is great. I already know, you know, going in the first day what to expect. So that's important. And again, you know, we find that a good foundation with a positive structure is always welcomed by all who work at Perception. So that's the end of the my talk. And I just wanted to share again, follow us wherever you can. You can go to our website. We'll be launching a new one very soon. But here's our Twitter handle and everything else with Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at dannyg@experienceperception.com in case I didn't hit anything during my talk. And I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thank you so much, Danny. That was very, very insightful. All right. So thank you so much, Danny. That was really, really insightful. I really love what you talked about, in terms of network and people. I mean, everything you talked about, every single slide, I think it just talks so much about people and culture. Like, with you and the internal team, or, when it's just the two of you, or even what I thought was really insightful was even how you and, other people in the industry, I mean, you just form a network that's so, distinctively yours, right? So, I mean, that was very, very interesting. And I think a lot of agencies that we have seen, they do have the same saying that you mentioned, like, we don't want that structure. So to me, it's really interesting because, at being digital agencies, things change every year, right? They change like every few years. You need to constantly evolve to stay up to date, right? Do you find that there is sometimes a struggle between like structure and also like evolving and staying up to date?
Well, I think the structure, as far as being a place where people get to explore, they get to fail fast, they get to have fun while they work here, but at the same time, everybody knows the job to get done. So I think that overall foundation, or that overall value stays, no matter where the company is going. But there's, like I said, when we did the shift where we were about to go, along this technology side, still keeping within films, but we decided we're no longer going to do, work with advertising agencies. We just want to work with films and directly with technology brands. That's when a lot of the, a couple of team members here were like, well, I really want to still work, in the agency world. So that was fine. Everybody has what they want to do personally, but, as a company, we needed to move in a different direction. But we're still friendly with everybody who left. They learned a lot, and they actually have gone on to other places to become art directors and creative directors at agencies. And they build actually like a mini handbook that they learned from being at Perception that they use with their group, not as the agency as a whole, because some of them are working at large agencies, but they'll create this mini handbook for their team.
So. Yeah, I mean, it sounds it sounds like the structure does. How should I put it? The values stay, and it really helps you to even to stay on top of things, because you talk a lot about thinkers and creative problem solvers. I mean, those are pretty much very important fundamental values that would help you actually to get to the next level. I guess I'm really, really interested to also learn, when did you establish that? Was it kind of within the first 3 months of starting up, or did it evolve over time and you really realize, you mentioned, I think 5 years, that you really had to create that structure of the project flow. When did you create the agency culture handbook, or when was it really finalized?
Well, I mean, it's never really finalized. We constantly update it. Even that graph that I showed you, the project Lifecycle, that's an older version. We're still working on a newer version because we've shifted into this realm. And once we, started a new division like the technology division, we have to kind of add that in and see how that fits with the culture and things like that. But I would say about probably 4 or 5 years in, when we started getting very busy, and Jeremy and myself, we just couldn't do all the work ourselves anymore. We had to hire designers, we had to hire project managers that would actually do the work better than us, because we knew our strength was running the company and guiding, everybody through the process of, what the projects are about, what are the clients talking about, there's a lot of different values when it comes to either just the production team that, because they're on the phone constantly with the clients, they need to know how to measure the level of success. If the client is happy right now, if they're not happy, some clients, they have that poker face on the phone, and that, you think that they're happy, but they're really not. And they'll give those little bit of cues as to, them not being 100% happy. And it's very important for us and for our team, our account managers, things like that talk to the clients, that they pick up on that. With creative, it's a whole different situation. And then with technology, it's another different situation. So it is constantly evolving. At least the foundation is always there. But it's a constant change. Yeah.
Right. So, do you have any advice for maybe like companies that's looking to start creating their own, kind of culture handbook and a set of values? Like, from your own experience, do you have any advice for them?
Mm-hmm. So for me, it all starts with the founders, right? If they have certain values or certain goals, and they have a mission for the company. So I think it just starts off with those sort of the answers to those questions. And then little by little, when you start asking yourselves the questions of, if I were to get hired at this place, what would I be asking the owner? And then you put yourself in a potential employee's, chair, and reverse it and figure out the information that, you'd want to hear if you were interviewing at this company, and how this company is moving forward. What's it like to, when a project comes in, or, is there room to grow? If I'm a designer, can I become the creative director? Things like that. So there's a lot of, I think a lot of questions that the owners need to ask themselves, and that in turn starts to dictate the pages of the handbook. And of course, adding in the values and the history. I think also, I always like to give people the history of Jeremy and myself, because they think they come in here and Jeremy and I are in our office, doing our thing, but we don't know anything about the creative because we're running a company. But yet we'll go out there and look at work and look at the software, and I'll jump on After Effects. I still know it, and tell them, hey, you could be doing this a lot faster. Of course, I don't do it that often, but it's something that if they knew that was my past and visual effects was where I, quote unquote, grew up, then they would understand, like, oh, okay, well, this guy's he's one of me. He's like me. So he understands that it's going to take me 3 or 4 hours to get this idea out of my head, or I need to get up and go go for a walk in order for this idea to come to me and then come back. That's again why we don't have specific hours, especially for the creative team technology. Sometimes it doesn't happen, between 9 and 6. Sometimes it happens on the weekend. They want to come in, or sometimes it happens when the phones die down at 6 o'clock, and a lot of the company is left, and creatives are hanging out. They put their headphones on, they focus for an hour, and they get more done in the hour than they do in the 4 hours when the phones are going crazy and things like that. So it really, it really depends on the person, but it's definitely up to the founder or the manager, the leader, to help foster the culture forward.
So what would you say has been your employees and the team's kind of biggest, their favorite thing about the values, like people who have graduated from the agency, what do they always kind of look back and let hey, that was the best values that I've learned and I've adopted from you?
Mm-hmm. I think the best one was, there's a couple of them, but we always get feedback on getting up and actually talking to people, so it's not via email and things like that. One of the things I like our project managers to do is, if you get an email from a client that seems a little bit cold, don't email them back. Get them on the phone, talk to them, see what's going on. It's a lot easier to kind of gauge that temperature when you're talking to them on the phone, and follow up and just tell them, look, all right, I see where you're going with this. We're going to work on this. We're going to get you something by the end of the day, and you're going to be much happier with what you see, whatever it is. You know, it's just a lot easier doing that. The other one is that we don't bullshit each other. You know, if someone does something wrong, we're gonna call it out. You got to be accountable for what you're doing, and everybody needs to know their specific roles. That's another thing here is that we'll teach everybody. You know, we have descriptions, we have talks with every employee about this is your job, this is your, you know, these are your duties, this is what you're accountable for. So, you know, I don't want to be in a meeting with 5 people and I say, all right, well, where did we go wrong, or why is the client expecting this when they should be getting this? And I don't want people to do, you know, they point that way when I'm like, I don't, you know, that's not the answer. The answer is either it was a project manager or the creative was wrong, or, you know, let's get it back on track and let's figure it out fast. So I think that was, that's another one of the positive feedbacks is that, you know, everybody here understands their roles. They know that, you know, we're a small company, we wear a lot of hats, but everybody understands like, okay, the COO is handling day to day. I'm working on, you know, new business. Our project managers are dealing with the projects and, you know, the daily fires that go along with it, and things like that. So that's definitely key as well. I didn't talk about it that much, but everybody understanding their roles and being accountable for it is a page in the handbook.
Totally agree. Yeah, just being accountable, taking responsibility, knowing what they're in charge of. I think that's really helpful for people to know.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, people, they want to be accountable, because if I'm looking at them for the answers and I hired them for their, you know, for their expertise, they want to express their opinions, and they want to express the fact that, hey, this, you know, this shouldn't flow this way, or, you know, this design would be much better if we did this, this, and this. But, it's always a constant, you know, testing, and again, you know, failing fast. You know, it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to fail. As long as we learn from it and fix it fast, it's fine. So.
Yeah. And you know, so a lot of companies talk about hiring for culture, and you mentioned a bit about, you know, attracting talents, you know, the golden rules to it. So I mean, I'm just interested to know, like, how has it been? Like, do you have a method that you know hire correctly for culture, or, you know, do you hire them and sometimes make mistakes, or how do you kind of like reduce the kind of mistakes that the potential mismatch that might happen?
So we've hired in the past, you know, we've made mistakes hiring people, whether it be freelance or staff, you know. It's not hiring just for culture, it's hiring, and this is where it goes back to, you know, we try to meet everybody in person beforehand, because we want them to know what they're getting into. We want to make sure there's no gray areas, and we want to talk to them about, you know, their past experiences at other places, things like that. And just by, you know, those conversations, you get to realize, okay, this person's going to be a good fit. But occasionally, you know, we'll hire somebody and then realize later, like, very talented designer, but, you know, just didn't get along with the team, and, you know, we had to let that person go, or they went their separate ways because they realized themselves. But it's very hard to hire just for culture. It's very hard to hire just because the person's brilliant, because you have to have that special balance, you know. Not everybody here that we hire has the personality of, say, our chief creative director. You know, he's funny, he's great to be around, you know, things like that. We have other, you know, other folks that are not shy, but, you know, aren't as outspoken as he is, and things like that. The one thing that we do, though, is we always, I guess test is the word, but we'll always test everybody. So we'll, you know, if our creative director is busy, we'll say to one of our designers, you know, like, hey, why don't you come in, jump on the call, listen in, and if you want to say something, you know, feel free to say what you want to say. And that gives them a good sense of, number one, how client calls go, but number two, you know, the process of the calls, and giving them that confidence of, like, okay, so I you know, if I get to say something, I better make sure it's something good, because the client's on the phone, and usually it always is good. You know, they just it's not lacking the confidence. I guess they just don't, you know, they don't want to say anything that's going to get them in trouble, or they don't want to say anything that that might have the client respond in a way that one of the managers or one of the project leaders might get angry. But usually, if you go with your gut and that something is not 100% and you're trying to make it 100%, then the client's going to be happy. So as when just to go back to the question, hiring the right people, it definitely it's not easy. You get young talent that's right out of school. They've never been in a studio or in an agency of this type. They've always been in school, and you critique them a certain way, they might not take to it well, or they might get offended. And it's just like, hey, look, we're trying to get a job done. It has nothing to do with feelings. We have to get this job done. We're all on a team together. We're just telling you, like, you need to change this, do this, do this. And then once they realize that we're doing it to make them better, they start to understand, okay, this is how my job here is built, and I'm gonna learn and get better, because everybody here, when they learn, they get better. Then perception as a whole just gets better, and we do much better work. So
great. Yeah, you've touched on the really important things about also just kind of showing them why you're doing these things. I think that's really, really helpful. Especially when hiring some of the younger talents, I've personally faced it as well. So I think that's really, really good advice for people. Do you have any like last words, that for agencies looking to improve on their culture or to scale up, by attracting the right talents?
I would say, the advice I would give for agencies is just be transparent to anybody that's going to join the team. Again, like for us, we Perception spends half our time divided between the parallel dimensions of fantasy and reality, right? So we do futuristic work for films, and then we do that same futuristic work, but it has to work with today's technology for our technology partners, right? When we tell that to potential employees, they might get nervous, because it's like, wow, I'm going to design, a UI for a futuristic car, but how is that going to work, in a car that's coming out in 2 years? Well, that's part of the challenge. And if you're open to potential employees that are coming on board, you need to kind of show what's behind the curtain, like the Wizard of Oz. You know who's back there, and you have to see how the company works. And sometimes agencies don't necessarily get too deep into it with potential employees, because maybe it's the interview process or whatever it is, or I'm not sure. But I think you need to kind of let them, behind the scenes a little bit. We have on our Perception channel, we have a little bit of behind the scenes with Jeremy and I, talk about years 0 through 2, and then episode 2 is getting busier and working with clients like HBO and ESPN. So already we've established a history that if anybody who's joining this team, we can tell them, hey, check out the Perception channel. You'll learn a lot about us before you come in for the interview. So that way they're coming in with questions instead of me just telling them what we do. They already know, like, hey, I saw you guys' channel. I went to the website. These are the questions I have. And we could already start that dialogue of, they're asking the questions, to see if they're the right fit. So if I answer those questions correctly for them, then I already know that, they're very interested and that they're going to fit within the culture of Perception. So I think that's key, is letting them in, a little bit more than just interviewing them for the job. And that's it. You're art director, you're interviewing for an art director job, blah, 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 blah. And it's over. I think you got to give them a little bit more as to how the structure and the culture is on the inside. Okay, cool. That's really, really cool. Yeah, so I think that's mostly it for today. Okay. I think that's a lot of good sharing. I really appreciate the time you took for the interview today. And I think there's a lot for the audience to learn from what you have shared. So thanks so much, Danny. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for having me on, and I look forward to seeing the rest of the speakers as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Danny.
All right, take care.